Hey, welcome everybody to the Talking Box Show. I'm going to be reading from the Sefaria app Bible. It's in Hebrew and English. I'm going to read the Hebrew and the English. Um, if you have a Bible, turn to Exodus chapter 21. I'm just going to read chapter 21. Um, and it's titled Mishpatim. Mishpatim in Hebrew means, they translate it in Sefaria app as rules. So if you have your Bible, turn to Exodus chapter 21. In Hebrew, the word Exodus is Shemot, and it actually means names. Um, if you're unfamiliar with the biblical Hebrew, here's my Bible that I read from. It's in English on this side, and here's the Hebrew right here, and here's the Hebrew word mishpatim. So it's actually parashot mishpatim, and so parashot, or like I put to this on this channel, parashas or parashot means portions. It's divided into um, numerous portions. The first five books of the Bible, and the rabbis are the ones that had um, done this. Not the modern rabbis, but the sages of Israel going back. If I remember correctly, the prophet Ezra, I know in Babylonia, in that captivity, him with the elders, the Sanhedrin, had created the synagogue there in Babylonia. That's where it first originates from, the synagogue. And I also think that him and, like I said, the Sanhedrin, or the Assembly of the Great Men, what's what they're called, um, divided the five books of Moses into um, subdivisions or divisions, and they titled it, portions, parashah or parashah, for portion, and this one's Shemot. So if you have your Bible, go ahead and turn there. Hopefully, in the future, I get more subscribers, start making some money. I can upgrade and give you visual so you can see what I'm actually reading. But if you want to go along, if you have an Android phone, go to the Google Store and download the Sefaria app, spelled Sefaria, and it's for free. Download it. Um, you'll see on the right hand side of the screen. You can download it with your phone or your computer. You'll see on the right hand side is say translations, and if you go down, there's a title, learning schedules, and it says weekly Torah portion, mishpatim, and that's where you want to go to right there. And you just click on it, whether you're on your laptop or computer or your cell phone. And that's where I'm going to be reading from. So remember, mishpatim means rules. So I'm going to begin with chapter 21 of Exodus and verse 1. I'm just reading Exodus chapter 21, or Shemot. Vele hamishpatim asher tasim lifnehem. These are the rules that ye shall set before them. Ki tikne ever ivri sheshanim yavod uvashvi yetze lechashi chinam. When you acquire a Hebrew slave, that person shall serve 6 years, and shall go free in the seventh year without payment. Im begapo yavo begapo yetze im bal ishahu vayatza ishto imo. If a male slave came single, he shall leave single. If he had a wife, his wife shall leave with him. Im Adanav yitin lo isha veyalda lo vanimov, vano haisha viladeya tiye Laudonea vehuyetse vegapo. If his master gave him a wife, and she has borne him children, the wife and her children shall belong to the master, and he shall leave alone. Ve'im amor yamar ha'ever achavti adni ishti ve'e benai lo etse hafshi. But if the slave declares, I love my master and my wife and children, I do not wish to go free. Vehigisho adnav el ha'elihim vehigisho el hadele ov elham zuva veiratza adanav e azno b'marzea va avdo lelam. His master shall take him before God. He shall be brought to the door or the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear within all, and he shall then remain his master's slave for life. V- So this is Exodus chapter 1, verse 7. I'm reading from now. Vechi yemchor ish et beto la'ama lo tetze keze ha'avadim. When a parent sells a daughter as a slave, she shall not go free as other slaves do. Im ra'a be'ene adonea asher la ya'ada vehefta leyam nakri lo yimsho la makra bevigdova. If she proves to be displeasing to her master, who designated her for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He shall not have the right to sell her to outsiders, since he broke faith with her. Ve'im livno ye adena ke mishpa habanot yasela. And if the master designated her for a son, he shall deal with her as is the practice with free maidens. Im achere yachaklo she'era kesuta ve'onata lo yigra. If he takes another into the household as his wife, he must not withhold from this one her food, her clothing, or her conjugal rights. Ve'im shalashalelo yasela ve'yatsa chinamin chasef or kasef. If he fails her in these three ways, she shall go free without payment. Exodus chapter 21, verse 12. Make ish vemet mo yuma. One who fatally strikes another party shall be put to death. Vasherla zada veha elechim ena leido or le yado vesamti lecha makom asher yanu shama. If a man did so not by design, it came about by an act of God, I will assign you a place to which he can flee. Vechi yatzid ish el re'ehu lecharago var varma me'im misbechi tichachenu or tichachenu, when one party schemes against another and kills through treachery. Let me put my glasses on. You shall take that person from a very altar to be put to death. Umake avi ve'emomo yuma. One who strikes one's father or mother shall be put to death. Exodus chapter 21, verse 16. Vegonev ish karo ve'nimtza ve'yado mo yuma. One who kidnaps another party, whether having sold or still holding the victim, shall be put to death. Kaleo avi ve'emomo yumat. One who insults one's father or mother shall be put to death. Vechi yerivun anashim vehecha ish et re'ehu be'even ov ve'egrof ve'lo yamut ve'nafal le'mishkav. When two parties quarrel and one strikes the other with stone or fist, and the victim does not die but has to take to bed. Exodus chapter 21, verse 19. Im yakum ve'hiret halek bachutz el mish anto ve'nika hamake rak shivto yetain ve'rafpo yerafpe. If the victim then comes up and walks outdoors upon a staff, the assailant shall go unpunished, except for paying for the idleness and the cure. Vechi yake ish e avdo, ov e amato, bashave ume tachat yado, nakom yenakem. When a slave owning party strikes a slave, male or female, with a rod, who dies there and then, this must be avenged. Ach imom, ov yamayim. Yamolo Yukam Ki Chaspohu. But if the victim survives a day or two, this is not to be avenged, since the one is the other's property. Vechi Yenatsu Anashim Venagufu Isha Hara Veyatsu Veyaladeya Velo Yeye Asun Anosh Ya Anesh Ka Asher Yashit Ela Baal Ha'isha Venatan Bif Lilim. When two or more parties fight, and one of them pushes a pregnant woman, and a miscarriage results, but no other damage ensues, the one responsible shall be fined according as the woman's husband may exact, the payment to be based on reckoning. Ve'im ason yiye venatata nefesh Tachat nefesh. But if other damage ensues, the penalty shall be life for life. Ayin tachat ayin shein tachat shein yad tachat yad regel tachat regel. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Kevia tachat kevia patza tachat patza habora tachat habura. Supposed to roll with the R sound in your throat, but it's hard. Habura, habura. But burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. Vechi yache ish ein avdo, ov ein amato veshechata lachafshi yeshachenu tacha enom. When a slave owning party strikes the eye of a slave, male or female, and destroys it, that person shall let the slave go free on account of the eye. Ve'im shein avdo, ov shein amato, yapir lachafshi veshachenu tacha sheno. If the owner knocks out the tooth of a slave, male or female, that person shall let the slave go free on account of the tooth. Exodus chapter 21, verse 28. Vechi yaga shor ish of isha vemet sachol yesacher hashor velo ye acher basaro uva al hashor naki. When an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox is not to be punished. Exodus chapter 21, verse 29. Ve'im shor nagak, hu mitmo, shilshom ve'hua biv ela velo yishmerenu, ve'chemitz ish of isha, hashor yisachel ve'gam be'alav yumat. If, however, that ox has been in the habit of goring, and its owner, though warned, has failed to guard it, and it kills a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner too shall be put to death. In kofer yusha Allah venatan perion nasho becho asher yusha elav. If ransom is imposed, the owner must pay whatever is imposed to redeem the owner's own life. Exodus chapter 21, verse 31. Ovain yigach ovat, yigach kamishpat, chazeh ye aselo. So too, if it gores a minor, male or female, its owner shall be dealt with according to the same rule. Im eved yarach hashor ov ama kasef sheloshim shechalim yetain ladonav vehashor yisachel. But if the ox gores a slave, male or female, its owner shall pay 30 shekels of silver to the master, and the ox shall be stoned. Vechi yiftach ish bor ov ki yechrei ish bor velo yachasenu venafal shamashor ov chamor. When any party opens a pit, or when any party digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or an ass falls into it, Bal Habor Yeshalem Chasef or Kesef Yashiv live Elav Ve Hemet Yichayelo. The one responsible for the pit must make restitution, paying the price to the owner, but keeping the dead animal. Vechi Yegof Shor Ish et Shor Re'ehu Vamet Umachru et Hashor Hachai Vechatzu et Chaspo Vegam et Hamet Yechitzum. When in parties, when any party's ox injures a neighbor's ox and it dies, they shall sell the live ox and divide its price. They shall also divide the dead animal. Ov nodakri shor nag- nagachu mitmoshe shom velo yishmerenu be'ala shelem yeshalem shor tacha hashor vechamet yichayelo. If, however, it is known that the ox was in the habit of goring and its owner has failed to guard it, that person must restore ox for ox, but shall keep the dead animal. Ki yegnov ishor of se uvacho of mecharo chamisha bakar. Bakar yeshalem tachat hashor varbazon tachat chase. When any party steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, that person shall pay 5 oxen for the ox and 4 sheep for the sheep. So that's the restitution, and that's the end of that chapter. Um, Tomorrow night, God willing, I'll read the second chapter. I don't fluently speak Hebrew. I mean, American English is my first language, but I do read the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek, and I study it um, in these languages. Oh, my family come from the Roman Catholic Church or Catholics, or I was Christianized as a baby. That's my religious history. I don't I had a hard time identifying as a Christian growing up. Um, when I was in prison in the Colorado State Penitentiary back in 2008, I learned these 3 languages: Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek. I read some Zohar books like Aleph, Bet, um, in Aramaic. Um, so that's where I learned these languages when I was in prison. So keep in mind, what's so great about that. While I come from Southwest Denver, Colorado, I was born in in the late in the 1970s, and I was there when there's the concept of gang banging gangs came out from California, Midwest, like Chicago, right? Um, I never went to high school, not one day. I never received a high school diploma. I was incarcerated even as a kid, from 15 years old to 18 years old, for stuff I didn't even do. A lot of bad stuff happening in Denver, Colorado during that time. People today are familiar with the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah, that stuff was real. Obviously, I'm Hispanic, right? 'Cause that's how the media, or in general, people like to identify or classify us. We're Hispanic, but we're not from Hispaniola. We're from here, the United States of America. Myself, I did a DNA test, and predominantly I'm Native Mexican American. I'm Pascua Yaqui. I'm Sephardic descendant from my dad's side, and from my mom's side, I'm Irish German. Even going into Poland, like Prague, um, and I'm Ashkenaz descendant too. Now, I knew this notion my whole life. Keep in mind, no one ever told me my family were Jews and everything, but a lot you know, of us separately in our family had this general notion that we were related to people in the Bible. I'll put it that way, Jewish people. Then, you know, um, I did a DNA test, and yeah, I'm Sephardic and Ashkenaz and Native Mexican American. Also discovered that I'm Asian, Cambodian. I'm from one of my ancestors come from Cambodia, and also discovered that I have African blood in me too. From West Africa, and also discovered that I have an ancestor too, right? That came from Asia, ancestor that came from Africa, even have an ancestor that came from Mesopotamia, Iraq. So growing up in life, I didn't know about any of this, right? Like I said, just had a notion. I didn't even know that I was Native Mexican American, a Pascua Yaqui. My mom and dad never talked about racism in the 1980s. Early on, my mom died when I was 8 years old from breast cancer. So I had, 8 years with her, but they never told us, or never told me and my brother, and he's almost a twin, he's like what, 10 and a half months older than me. But about racism, or what race we come from. But growing up, I didn't like using the term race, right? I mean, because I, just my own research and self education, little bit of public schooling, understood that there's only one race, which is the human race, which is very true. And there's cultures of people. So my mom and dad never told us, So I'm growing up looking at my dad. I'm like, he's Mexican, but he's dark, right? My dad was tall, big, And my mom, she's, Irish German, but I didn't know at the time, blonde hair, blue eyes and stuff, And that's how I seen the world, and anybody, and growing up in Denver during this time, the 1980s, right? I mean, we had a lot of old timers still kicking, people that went to World War II, that went to Vietnam War, all that stuff. Um, what I'm realizing about Denver, Colorado is that even though it has the history of the Ku Klux Klan, um, there's reports coming out now here in Denver. For example, check this out. So in the judicial system, Hispanics there we have the highest rates of incarceration out of black people and white people. We have the highest incarceration rates, 76%, right there in Denver, Colorado. This was a study I just read the article tonight. I want to make a video about that. Because no one's talking about it, But anyway, so growing up in Denver, I came across people that are biracial like me, black dudes, black women that are, half Mexican or native or Asian or white, Mexicans that way, white people that are half Mexican, half black, Asian. I mean, I grew up in a melting pot in Denver, Colorado, on top of the Ku Klux Klan. And as a kid, I witnessed it. I think 1992 was the last time the KKK held a public rally in front of the Colorado's Capitol, right there on Broadway and Colfax in Denver, Colorado. What they did, what happened was in 1992. I thought it was earlier, but I was about 13, 12 years old, 11 during this time, and you know they're just out there protected by the Denver Police Department. Yeah, police officers protecting them, inciting a public riot, which is against the United States Constitution. So anybody that was charged during that time that participated in the riot, and the riot wasn't a race riot, it was just something that just spontaneously happened. It was on Martin Luther King Day. I was, like I said, I was a kid, and from what I observed, all cultures of people were trying to attack the KKK. The police got attacked too for protecting the KKK. And keep in mind, this is, the early 1990s. The Supreme Justices in the court today here in the United States of America, the United States Supreme Court, those are all lobbyists, whether they're Republican politicians or Democrat politicians, they're lobbyists, meaning that lo- billionaires, people that are super rich here in the United States of America and probably the rest of the world, they fund for their campaigns and everything, and they act use it's lobbyism. They pay for these judges to sit and interpret the United States Constitution. That's why today you see everybody running around with guns, right? They're all talking about, well, hey, I have the right to defend myself. Well, if you look at the United States Constitution, it doesn't say you have the right to defend yourself. It says you have the right to bear arms in case the United States government, anywhere in the United States territory, right, begins to operate as a tyrannical government. What does a tyranny even mean? When people that we vote for, that we put them in office, they're there to uphold the law equally, right? They're supposed to be blind. This person gets, case by case, but everyone's equally judged in the court system. Um, but the politicians we have in office today, they interpret that amendment that you can bear arms in public and intimidate people. No, you can't. That's illegal right there. 30 years ago, they interpreted it to mean just that. You have the right to bear arms against your own government that begins to operate as a tyranny, begins to oppress people, suppress people, murder people, okay? Exploiting American citizens, taking advantage of disadvantaged American citizens. That's what the forefathers put in place. But today, like I said, the Supreme Court, you know, they're run by the lobbyists. A lot of rich people put politicians in office, and it's corporate America too involved to push out the interpretation, right, policies and laws that's going to affect American citizens. So I'm reading from the Torah, um, in Exodus chapter 21, just the first chapter, and you see the rules, right? Mishpatim means rules or regulations, right? These are principles to live by for a Jewish person. So on the other, so what about the non-Jewish people? How are they even supposed to keep the Torah, right? Follow the 613 mitzvot, the 613 commandments of God. They're not. It's not required. What they are required to follow is what is proscribed inside the Greek New Testament, the seven Noahide laws. And they're there in Acts chapter 15, verse, was it 20 through 22? So the seven Noahide laws are what the non-Jewish people of the nations, right? are supposed to follow, and these are divine commandments and everything. So I'll give you an example, a little story about my best friend. Years, 3 4 years ago, we're talking about the Bible, and I kept, forewarning him, hey, you need to just believe me, bro. We come from the same place and everything. But look, I'll put it like this: does your pastor at church, is he willing to teach, he or she or the prophets, whatever they have there, are they willing to teach you the biblical Hebrew, the Aramaic, and New Testament Greek, so you can read it for yourself, so you can understand where I'm coming from? Because everything that I was telling my best friend was a rebuttal what he was, forcing upon me. I gotta believe in Jesus Christ. I'm gonna die if I don't. I was like, hold on, hold on. And I had explained to him, and we got arguments for about 3 years. Then he finally gave up, and God, he was able to realize that everything I was telling him was truthful, because I don't need someone to interpret the Bible for me anymore. I read it for myself. And I was telling him about the commandments. They're right there prescribed in Acts chapter 15, chapter 20 and through 22. And the only thing about it is that you have to, be able to understand, and read the Greek New Testament, that language, so that you can understand that the seven Noahide laws are found right there in Acts chapter 15, in those verses, you know. And these commandments, what they really are, they're divine commandments. They're divine injunctions that God gave to Moses to give to the Jewish people and the non-Jewish people that came out of Egypt, almost 30, over 3,500 years ago. I mean, there's so much to learn, and there's so much intellectual satisfaction from being able to break out of the box of people that say that you can't, these are dead languages, and if you want to learn these languages you have to go to college for years and years. Look at, I was in prison learning this stuff. Simultaneously, there was an explosion in all the Colorado state penitentiaries during the time I was in there, and it was Messianic Judaism, a big explosion of incarcerated men learning, or learning things different in an untraditional way. I I never subscribed to Messianic Judaism. Like I said, I had a hard time under going with Christianity, and that was a, like I said, in the Colorado State Penitentiary, that was a big explosion that happened over there. And I have friends. Check this out. For example, I mean, like in Denver, Colorado, because the biracial population there, a lot of us are going to discover that we're actually real DNA biological Jewish descendants. I mean, you got people in New Mexico discovering that. This is stuff that I was almost murdered for here in Amarillo, Texas, back in 2018, when coworkers hit me in the back with an excavator bucket. A month later, crushed my whole body. Denied, and then I was denied medical treatment. I was beat up by a medical doctor, threatened by, the internal affairs sergeants here at the Amarillo Police Department. I mean, just everything just went out of control, right? Um, because I was teaching these things to people at work that were inquiring, right? So, for a quick short story, God is real. Like I said, my education, I only went to public school for up until the 6th grade, 7th grade year, first day, gang banging, all that stuff. And we didn't have OGs. Like I said, this is Denver, Colorado. That gang banging concept came from the West Coast. And there was already Crips, though, that I remember in the Westwood Projects. I grew up in Southwest Denver in the Westwood Projects, and there was already Crips there, but it was different. And I remember people in the projects breakdancing, you know, but we didn't have OGs growing up, and a lot of us grew up in black gangs, Crips, Bloods, Gangster Disciples, Vice Lords, Latin Kings, and there's I came across Asian, we're all kids too. Imagine that, um, but my education level only went to, like I said, the sixth grade. I was kicked out in the seventh grade, expelled and everything. That was the last time I went to a Denver public school. And then I was incarcerated for 2.5 years, stuff I didn't do. And I took some college courses there, a good thing. I got my GD there. Um, took some college courses in American history and, introduction to psychology. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is if I was able to sit inside the Colorado State Penitentiary, and you already know how that is, coming from gangs and all that. It doesn't matter what state you're in. It only, you know, differentiates by politics and everything. And I was able to learn these languages from a book, praying to God. So mishpatim in the parashot, for this week, tomorrow night, God willing, and the night after, I'll finish the next three chapters. But we just read, I just read from the Hebrew and read the Sefaria English translation, and what's missing. And this is my way trying to give back to the broken communities in Denver and throughout the United States and the rest of the world, because what's missing in society today is that no one's following the laws of God, right? They're being told you're saved by grace, and which is totally false. I mean, people like to argue all the time. I said, all right, you don't even have to read the Greek. Look, just go to Romans chapter 6, the first two verses. Paul says, why are you sinning? Because we're saved. He's literally saying, since we're saved by grace. And then try to wrap your mind around what grace means anyways, because that's a misinterpretation of the word. The Greek word, I'm trying to remember what it is, karitos, I believe. So karitos in Greek means chesed, kindness. So he's saying, hey, since we're saved by the chesed, in Hebrew, that kindness is of God, you know, are we to continue to sin? And Paul says, he says, God forbid, kas kalila, how could we continue to live in a life of sin when we turn from that lifestyle because we, you know, came across, or we were exposed to the Melech Mashiach, the King Messiah, right? Now, my position, the Greek New Testament, is what the rabbis say. A Jew can't practice Christianity, Messianic Judaism. It's all idol worship, which is true. And on an academic level, the Greek New Testament is not. It's inaccurate. It's not the infallible Word of God. It's fallible if you can read the Greek New Testament. you know, when I read it, I've been reading it for years and everything, and I don't read it constantly every day. But what I discovered is the mistranslations and the things that just don't make sense in the Greek New Testament. And it's not because I don't understand the Greek New Testament. It's just because, you know, it's it's inaccurate. And if you know the church history, then you understand why I don't I disagree with every American Bible, every American English Bible that's translated. A lot of it's inaccurate. Then you have all kind of scholars translating the Bible anyways, But you know, so giving back to these broken communities here on YouTube, once I get more subscribers and start making money off of YouTube by just not even preaching the word of God, just trying to teach people, teaching people here, this is how you learn biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek, and you go study for yourself and everything. Because the way society is today, no one's. I mean, if you can't, if you're being told not to keep the laws of God, right? What are you going to rely on at that point? You're saved by grace. It's wrong, right? Continue sinning is what these people are telling you. That's what they're implying when they say, "Hey, you're saved by grace. Go back to living, right? Go back to murdering. Go back to disbelieving in God, right? Idol worshiping, being promiscuous. You know, men and women both ways, multiple relationships, right? Keep talking bad to each other. You know, leshon hara, evil language. Keep stealing from each other, right? Keep lying to each other. See, those are the seven divine commandments found in Acts chapter 15. So why are these people telling me, you know, everybody, you're saved by grace, which is false? And then what about the broken communities we come from? By all rights, I should be dead, should be doing life in prison, but I'm here today free, right? Trying to figure out how to utilize this education about God to give back to these broken communities. Why? Because I'm tired of watching the news, people being told lies, people being psychologically manipulated, being controlled, in other words, being what I call psychological slaves. Yeah, slavery's real here in the United States of America, right? But look at, I just pointed out, they call us Hispanics in Denver, Colorado, and we have the highest rates for incarceration in Colorado. What does that tell everybody? What does that tell us? One, these people have been lying to us that they've been, you know, trying to call us minorities. Two, we're underrepresented, right? Good thing that, you know, it was a white woman who actually did statistics recently, part of her organization in Colorado. I caught this on a news channel, you know, in a news video from Denver. And like I said, I'm gonna make a video about that and talk about that. But God bless her and her family, you know, because there's injustices happening towards us that are brown skinned. We're being accused of crimes. There ain't no due process for us. And we're American citizens. Imagine that. Our ancestors being here before every anybody came over here. But like I said, there's been a lot of psychological manipulation. One thing about I love about Denver, like I said, even though in the, you know, we have the KKK and the government, right? All that stuff. But look what the people did in Denver simultaneously. Attack the KKK and the Denver Police Department because that's unconstitutional. That no police officer can protect anybody who's in public here in the United States of America inciting a public riots. They're supposed to arrest that person or people and throw them in jail and put charges on them. And then when they don't, then you have responses, right? Not reactions. Even though people spontaneously did it, it was like a, you know, I guess the best way to explain what happened, what I witnessed and saw was it was humanity took over. People know right from wrong. Maybe not today, but 30 years ago, everybody knew they had an obligation to stand up for what's right and protest against what's wrong. The police knew what they were doing was wrong. Everybody in Colorado that were politicians, leaders, spiritual leaders, whatever you want to call them, right? Higher education, rich, super rich, to allow that to happen. You're gonna tell me you're gonna let the KKK insult white people? Because you get that's one thing too. You know, I don't know what these other people are saying about the Ku Klux Klan, but if you're not affiliated with white supremacy and you're white, they call you trailer trash. They hate white Americans that don't agree with their Confederate ideology. And you need to understand and study and begin researching American history and stop listening to politicians, right? And what people are saying, because these are all paid actors. right? I remember years back, I was in prison. See, I missed all this stuff, all these cats on these, social media platforms, conspiracy theories. I'm from the streets, and I learned a vital principle that kept me alive. And the concept is, look, only a fool believes what a person tells them. And that's how I carry myself. That came now, that's natural to me. I do it genuinely. So when all these conspiracy theorists were saying all these things and all this crazy nonsense, I came out of prison, in 2015. I'm like, the whole world just changed, but they're lying to people to make money. So you need to understand American history before you get into the political arena, right? The political domain here in the United States of America, before you even start voting which side you're going to vote for. In American history, yeah, the Democrats had the KKK. That's where they originated from. And the Republican Party, after the Civil War and prior to the Civil War, was against slavery from the Democrats. Not all Democrats during this time after the Civil War and prior to it became or were, KKK or Ku Klux Klan or white supremacists, whatever you want to call them, right? So in American history, it started in the southern states. So anybody that tells you anything about American history that the Democrats are all racist, like I said, go research and study American history. It's free. I mean, what are you doing on your phone or PC? Playing video games, watching porn, watching videos, watching the news. You're not educating yourself. It's possible. I have sixth grade education. On top of that, everybody in the hood remembers me. I was in special education classes, right? Not because I was unintelligent, was because I was, ahead of people that I went to school with during that time. But like I said, if in an environment where I came from and then in prison, right? What it's like in prison. So all these cats out here committing mass shootings, robbing people. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, people that's in penitentiary right now, the lifers over there too, and the new cats that are going in there, for my generation, Generation X, you're gonna mess with their family members. Okay, they never met 'cause they've been incarcerated for 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, and you might get away. The police might not shoot you down after you commit these heinous crimes, but when you go to these state penitentiaries and federal penitentiaries, they're going to get at you in there. They're gonna make you mentally, physically, emotionally suffer in there in prison. You're gonna wish that the police shot you down. You're gonna wish you never, committed these heinous crimes. And so understand, there's repercussions for everything you do, whether it's good or bad. And there's a lot of people today that have family members that are in prison that disagree with what you're doing in public. I'm not trying to threaten you. I'm not going to do anything to you, I'm just telling you what the environment's like inside of there. But I'm not going to let somebody walk all over me either. But there has to be another way to live, is what I'm trying to say. Coming from Generation X, right? Coming from gang banging, selling dope, all that stuff. Being oppressed and not knowing that you're oppressed. Being hated on, people disliking you because they know that you don't know who you are. In Denver, Colorado, like I said, I have family members and friends that are finding out that they're Orthodox Jewish descendants. My family, friends' families, they're Sephardic and Ashkenaz from Germany. Ashkenaz, right? Prague, Spain, from the Sephardic side. But today, the king is calling on every one of us. And I want to ask you a question, the viewer. Hey, recent years, are you being attracted to reading the Bible? Are you searching spirituality more than ever in your life? Not because you're afraid, or even if you are afraid or bad things happen to you, or you're just in a very dark place where there's mass confusion, nothing makes sense. You can't believe what you hear. You can't believe what you see out there in society. That's God. giving all of us what they, what this concept is called the messianic consciousness, being aware of God, being aware that there is a King Messiah, no matter if you're from the church or Messianic Judaism. The things the church and Messianic Judaism has distorted is that Jesus Christo over there, he's a Pharisee. All his students were Pharisees. He's not God. Jesus, he's not God. Like I said, even in English translations, too many places to show in the Greek New Testament that, look, if you're reading that and people are telling you he's God and everything, it's a mistranslation, or it's literally translated, it's not God, and you still won't believe it, right? Because you're being foolish. You're believing what people tell you. You're being spiritually lazy, and it's materialized. It's manifested as physical. People can see that you're lazy, right? Even myself too. I got to get in shape and everything, right? But one day at a time too. So I'm just trying to give back, and I'm going to, God willing and everything. I'm going to teach people how to. I'm gonna make a series of videos to teach you how to read and write, enunciate Hebrew letters, that the alphabet, right? It's so easy. It's so easy, and that's what it's called in Hebrew, alphabet. And in Greek, alpha, omega, in English, right? Alphabet. And the reason why it's like that, we all know American English is only what, 300, 400 years old, if that. And it actually, a lot of all the root words come from the Greco-Roman language, the Roman and the ancient Roman and ancient Greek language. And the Romans, in word etymology and language etymology, the ancient Romans got their alphabet system from the ancient Greeks. And guess where the ancient Greeks got their alphabet from? The alphabet, right? From the Phoenicians in the Middle East. So that's why it's easy to learn these languages. Um, Someone's trying to get out from the box. I gotta go. So God bless everybody. Understand. God's trying to get all of our attention. That's why you see everything the way it is. It's not just you experiencing it. You might feel isolated. No, everyone is seeing this, right? And more people are beginning to see society here in the United States collapse. Why? Well, look, when you stand by idle and let crime after crime after crime happen to anybody, right? Sooner or later, that spirit of destruction is going to come to you too. And that's what we're seeing here in society. Because if you weren't there in the 1980s and the 1990s, in the early 2000s, people, all the leaders gave up on us in the hood. They abandoned us. So this is my way, to give back. Searching for men, I'm calling my brothers that I don't even know yet, because God's going to do his part and I'm going to do my part and try to get this message out there so they can learn these languages, so they can see further south, that they can read the Bible in biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. And at that point, they can decide who to go with, the rabbis, Orthodox rabbis, or the church. But what has to happen immediately right now is that people need to go read Acts chapter 15 and understand what was happening there, and understand the seven Noahide laws are there, right? The belief in God. But see, you have to understand God to believe God. You can't murder. You can't steal from people. You can't speak bad about people to ruin their reputation, right? You can't hurt animals. You can't be promiscuous in your relationships. And you have to create your court of justice. In fact, that's where the United States of America, the forefathers of the United States Constitution, Where do you think they got the concept of a constitution from? From the Ten Commandments. The forefathers of the United States of America were called Judeo-Christians. Anyways, these I grew up, like I said, early 1980s, where people, the super religious people, were following the Ten Commandments of God. That was like the public community unwritten norm. People are following the Ten Commandments, right? But because 30 years later, and because of the morals are immoral now, not immoral, people still have some low vibration of morals. It went from 10 commandments now to seven, right? Because they even had it wrong too, but at least they're following the 10 commandments, right? That the Jewish people that God told to follow anyways. And those 10 commandments are a synopsis of the 613 commandments. But in our generation, like myself and other people too across the world, I mean, there's a huge phenomenon taking place across the world where people are discovering their Orthodox Jewish descendants and they're returning to the house of Israel. So that's the sole purpose of all this stuff, to let do my part and let God do His part, to get back to the community and say, look, things are twisted, things are bad. Now, don't think I'm soft. Don't come at me all crazy and everything. I come from that same environment. And we all gotta squash things. We all gotta let things go. And I promise. I'm not the type of guy that makes promises, but I promise you right now. If you learn these languages, these three languages, Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek, you will experience an intellectual satisfaction. Your spiritual thirst will be quenched. You won't have to rely on people. You won't have to be angry because you can't read the Bible in these languages. You can read it for yourself. And it won't take you that long. You just got to pray to God, and God's going to, explore your thoughts and your intentions and your feelings and your emotions. And, He's going to say, all right, this person is doing it for the right reason. So I'm going to give a little more to this person, and the next person that's doing it for money and all that, and they're not going to progress. That's how I learned these languages in 3 months, anyways. Three languages that I was told all my life are dead languages from books in prison. In 3 months, 90 days. Everybody that was in there with me, they're tripping out. I have a brother that told me, and he was at a different prison during this time or after me, that people were asking him for spiritual advice. Same thing that I was going through where I was at. And I come from gangs and all that stuff. But because God was moving, and He's still moving today, people came out of prison at least being able to read the Bible in biblical Hebrew. But that's what people need to return to. I'm a man of principles, and today, the principles I stand on are the seven Noahide laws, even though I'm Jewish too, right? But here's the thing, you know, majority of my life, I was living like a non-Jew. So, you know, for right now, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around following these laws, because when you're lawless all your life, like everybody, like I said, we're just a product of society. These broken families we come from reflect society today. These broken communities we come from, that reflect society today, right? And we know today society's broken, and that's just a mere reflection of the political arena, right? For all the spiritual leaders, from the church, because the Jews over there, the rabbis, they got things understood. I don't know what they call them in Islam, but their spiritual leaders, they have things understood over there. These people are living by principles that God commanded for them to live by. Besides them, the rest of us, majority of us, we're all broken, and we're just a reflection of the United States of America to the world. I was telling my wife, look at, what's funny is these people tell us to pray for other countries, right? But I told her, in reality, these other countries are praying for us, because if the United States of America collapse, right? And I'm not saying physically alone, but spiritually, it's become very immoral everywhere in the United States of America. You go to work, you could die. You get abused at work. You get paid low wages. You don't get no breaks. You don't blah 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 blah. Right? That's all legal stuff, anyways. But us American citizens, everybody here in the United States of America today, you're all citizens, anyways, and we're all being oppressed by rich people. We're being suppressed by rich people, and because they're getting profits off of us from gangs, right? Hollywood, all that, the music industry. Now look at the United States political domain is broken, right? People sound each other out for money, and the rest of the world are praying for us because we're the last beacon of hope next to Israel. Two nations in the world that God created. Well, I should say three. I mean, He created everything, but according to the Bible and the ways of the Bible and what the rabbis say and different things, God even moved on, and that's how the United States of America became the United States of America. A lot of Jewish billionaires funded the American Revolution, anyways. But when you don't know history, right? When people are telling you it's critical race theory, they don't want you to learn because all these people that are against education today, you want to be that fool and believe they have your back because they're money and you look up to them, right? Because they're rich people on top of the hill living in that mansion and you're over here in the hood. You want to look up to those people? Those are more likely the higher possibility. These are the descendants of the original Confederates, right? Those leaders that rebelled against the United States of America, who wanted to keep people enslaved, not only black people, but Asians, Native Americans, Mexicans, right? That's why they're trying to ban education. They don't want you to remember history. Why? Because I learned something a long time ago that the old timers used to say, people with with the higher education control people with no education. Good thing there is a God, you know, but everybody can follow the seven Noahide laws. If you're a non-Jew, why wouldn't you? And I told my friend, he's trying to tell me, well, no one can, only Jesus Christ can keep the laws of God. I said, really? You can't stop murdering people? You can't stop raping people? You can't stop stealing from people? You can't stop hurting animals. You can't stop being promiscuous, having different sexual relationships. You can't stop robbing people, right? And of course, we don't have a community, but you're going to tell me you don't want things to change for the better, the quality of life for everybody, which means that you have to become a leader, right? And being a leader, right? A spiritual leader today, you got to show signs to people that God is real because people are running around making millions of dollars saying they died. God talked to them. They went to heaven. They went to hell, right? Which goes against the Bible, anyways. Because every person in the Bible that had an experience or encounter with God or even the Son of God, right? If you want to call him Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the King Messiah, not God. What was the message? What was the message of his students? Stop sinning, stop sinning, stop sinning, stop sinning. And nobody even knows what sinning is. They use that phrase loosely. No one even understands what it means. What does sin mean? There's like, oh, don't do bad things. But what's a bad thing? Who says it's a bad thing? You said it's a bad thing? Because let me tell you something about American history. They told us 30 years ago we're criminals for smoking weed, we're drug addicts, we're criminals for selling drugs. Then you go back into the prohibition period, you see all these presidents' families were over there selling. When those politicians in the 1920s and 30s had illegalized alcohol, these cats were over there, right? Bootlegging alcohol. So you're right and you're wrong doesn't apply to me or it doesn't make sense to me because you're trying to call me a criminal, but your whole family that became presidents of the United States of America, right? All these politicians you see today, these are descendants of those people, man. They're generational rich kids. They don't, and their ancestors were criminals too. So who are you going to rely? Because you're telling me you might have the power to incarcerate me, take my life, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, what you're telling me is wrong. And that's what God is calling for all of us to do today, right? It's so self evident. Watch the news, go in society, keep being idle, keep standing around, hoping it'll happen to you, and it will happen to you. It's happening to everybody. I tell a story about what happened here in Amarillo, Texas, and it's currently still happening, right? No one wants to believe me. But you're going to go to church and believe these pastors or spiritual leaders that can't even read the Greek, don't want to teach you the Greek, don't want to teach you the Aramaic, don't want to teach you the biblical Hebrew. Why? Oh, they can't read these languages either. Then I guess that's your mistake. I wasn't a fool growing up. I had to break away from that church system because in the streets we call these people that you know that go to church pimps and prostitutes. The congregation is a metaphor. The congregation are prostitutes giving their money to a pimp. That's all the church is about. But they're the ones that don't want to educate you. What does that sound like? Who's similar to that today? People that are saying critical race theory, which is American history, that's only taught in colleges, anyways, across the United States of America, right? Talking about their ancestors. These politicians, all these rich kids that are politicians today, that you guys keep voting for, that keep destroying American society while making money. You seen MTG over there in the State of the Union address by President Joe Biden. You see her links white coat on? She's making money, 174,000 a year, to not pass policy to improve the quality of life. She's getting rich. Plus, she's a rich kid. She inherited the business from her parents. You know, I could go on and on and on and on and on about, these rich kids and how. And I'm not saying all the rich kids are bad, but the ones that are gets education, right? People that want to crap all over people. Look at them. What are they doing? Donald Trump, yeah, all you Mexicans out there, right on for being a Republican and Native Americans, that support Donald Trump, that are part of the MAGA extremists they call. Right on, because when that cat became president, I got discriminated at work here in Amarillo, Texas. I got threatened. I got hit in the back on Cinco de Mayo with an excavator bucket that weighs 5 tons. I was threatened, denied medical treatment. I had to come back to work because I ain't rich like you cats. A lot of people today, man, they're all millionaires, it seems like. I feel like I'm the only poor person here in the United States of America. I had to go back to work. A month and a half later, I get crushed with an excavator bucket. You gonna tell me these cats were trying to murder me? I get assaulted by a medical doctor. I get psychologically and emotionally abused by a network of doctors through the Texas Mutual Insurance Company here in Texas, the Texas Department of Workers' Compensation. Every complaint I filed, they let the insurance company know and the former employer know what I was saying so they can change their story to cover up their crimes against me. What about that cat that was working at that same company with the broken foot a year after the accident? Denied medical treatment too. But anyways, so that's what's really happening in these Republican states and the Democrat states too. What's going on is that you have not only Republican but Democrat politicians that are just puppets for the lobbyists, corporate America, rich, super rich people, multi-billionaires, and they're making historical profits off of American lives. But in order to address that situation, 'cause like I said, what's going on around us? What everyone's just, we got the herd mentality. And you might want to start listening. Then you might be a psychological slave if you're just going to go to work tomorrow, going back to the same groove of life, and then God forbid you become a victim out there. I mean, there's politicians, there's just people all over the United States of America getting, being killed. But that's because of that system over there that told everybody they're saved by grace, that you don't have to follow the laws of God. If you can't follow the laws of God, like my friend was telling me, I told him I can't be around you. I can't be around anybody. I tell everybody I meet, look, I'm following these laws right here. They try to tell me the same thing. I tell them, if you can't stop murdering people and raping people and all that stuff, you can't. I can't come around you. And I don't wish any harm on you or anything, but I don't get down that way. I'm a man of principles today. Of course, I have a higher responsibility too because I sat there in prison for 3 months and learned biblical Hebrew, Aramaic, and New Testament Greek. And all these years, right, trying to give back and then being called crazy because I'm going against the herd mentality of people, the psychological slaves. They want to argue, but when you show the facts, here, show me in the Greek New Testament. Show me in the Greek what you're trying to tell me. Show me in the Hebrew over there what you're trying to tell me. Oh, what about the Aramaic? Oh, you didn't know the Bible had parts of it that was written in Aramaic too? Ain't my fault. Those people you want to give your money to, and they're just living a luxurious lifestyle, private jets, mansions on the hill, perfect teeth, right? Rich, owning houses, bragging about paying $15,000 in the 1950s, right? That excluded Mexican Americans and Native Americans and majority of the black people and Asians, right? That what was it called? But it's one of the first United States infrastructure deals that were, packages that were passed to build, the economy. Because after World War II, you had the economies, we just came out of depression from World War II. The 1950s, they start building highways in the suburbs. Where do you think those suburbs come from? Who you think they're built for? You really think they're built for people that look like me? Please. That's why you see us over there in the hoods, right? Living in projects. Why were we in projects? Because look at American history. You have bad politicians and good politicians, right? They can only do so much. The end result, we're right there in the hood, right in the ghetto, impoverished. All this stuff. What about all the people that died in that environment? Currently today dying. But because everybody gave up on us and just want to make profit off of us, now look at it's all over. Every part of the United States of America is being inflicted by what we had to go through: loss of life, poverty, people hating us, starving, going hungry, having to sell drugs, having to take that risk, right? Because the police are just as corrupt as everybody else too. Good thing you have, at least today, you got some politicians, right, Republican and Democrat, right, a small percentage trying to do the right thing. Look at Liz Cheney. She spoke the truth about Donald Trump. People from her state, what they do, they got her out of office, right, for doing the right thing. But that's both political parties. And there's a small number of good people trying to do the right thing for everybody. But because we were sold out in the hoods too, right? And the suburbs, like I said, were created for majority of those rich, I guess you call white Americans during that time. That's why you hear these church pastors bragging today. I bought my first house for $15,000. Can you guys imagine that? Then, today people try to frown upon me or disrespect me because I don't own a house. They're like, they see me catching a bus, they see me walking around, right? It's easier to degrade a person than to help a person, right? But what's really going on is just a facade because they think physically they have the house, they physically have a car. That's on credit. Show me your house property deed. Show me your car deed, right? Show me your car title. Oh, exactly. That's corporate America that owns your house, pimping you. You're still buying rent, right? I was made homeless. Right here in Amarillo, Texas, going to these tooting totems and stuff. These people, these workers, looking at me, frowning at me because I got a backpack on, right? And I ain't even stealing none. I'm just going there to spend money. And I'm homeless too because of these work accidents. because no attorney all of a sudden here in the United States of America, attorneys for a brown person don't exist, right? So I was made homeless, being disrespected by people that try to front. You know what I'm saying? I come from the hood. I could take what you have. You really think I've been to prison? I've been freaking look it. I'm going through hell. You're gonna disrespect me? I don't have to tolerate you disrespecting me, right? But I see the big picture because, like I said, I have a higher responsibility because I pray to God that we could say, if I die today, you know what? I accomplished my mission in life for myself. Out of going to college, eventually in my later years, you know, really not interested in college, but having to go knowing that I need a higher education to survive here in the United States of America, right? Go back to the physical labor work that we do with the college education, making low wages, risking your life out there while these rich people are making billions of dollars. What interested me was the Bible. I wanted to know, is there really a God? Is really the resurrection of the dead? You had this dude over there in Israel healing people, right? But I wasn't no fool either. I saw these cats lie. So I accomplished my life goal in reading the Bible. I didn't know it was going to be three different languages. Now, I can read and comprehend four different languages. You can too. If you're from the hood, I'm seeing YouTube videos, a lot of, OGs are getting away from the gangs, right? But what's your life going to entail now? What are you going to stand on? If I was still active in my gangs and all this stuff happened to me in Amarillo, Texas, because I'm from Denver, Colorado, gotta remember that, out here with these politicians, these doctors, these cats try to murder me at work, right? I felt so humiliated, dude, getting hit in the back with the excavator bucket, denied justice, no medical treatment, being caught a wetback, can't do nothing, get crushed, get assaulted by a doctor, get intimidated by the mayor, Ginger Nelson here, right? The prosecution, I mean, Sergeant Lane, the internal affairs sergeant at the Amarillo Police Department, still has the phone recording from when Detective Brown, from the violent, um, I forget what, the violent office, whatever they're called. When he threatened me, he told me if I press charges on the medical doctor, he's going to press charges on me, and I did get charged. 'Cause I told that cop, you got me to, I said, hey, I know my rights, press charges. And I know technology today, one way or another, plus everything that just happened, and um, I'm not seeing God, I'm not hearing the voice of God, I just have the notion that God is with me, right? Or I can see it more. I know God's with all of us, good and bad, poor or rich, but I can see it like I'm super sensitive to it, and it's not even a language that I can comprehend or anything. It's just like I sense it, right? But I don't sense. I know, da'ati, da'ati in Hebrew. I know God is with us all, and I could comprehend Him a little clearer. But yeah, threatened by police, all this stuff, right? Last 5 years, I've been on TikTok, YouTube videos, trying to get help. Nobody wants to help. Now look at everybody. A lot of people, it's almost safe to say everybody going to work tomorrow is going to have to risk their life, get crapped on at work by their supervisors, co-workers, right? Get disrespected. You're not getting your breaks. Your work environment is unsafe, and there's nothing you can do. And that's what I mean by that's what happens when people stand idle, allow things to happen. You really think that it's not going to reach you on top of the hill in that mansion? It will. You might have all the barricades in the world, but you don't understand. This is what God is doing. Okay? He's in control of all this stuff. And what I mean by he's not commanding people or using them as puppets to mass shoot people or any of that, right? What he's doing is he's allowing people to be immoral. to have that piece of the pie of the world. He's allowing it. He's allowing man to destroy itself. And good thing. What's going to happen is that when humans, what's happening here in the United States of America, a lot of it's happening all over the world. So don't let these cats lie to you. And there's good people all over the world too. You start talking to people in other countries on social media, you'd be like, dang, you see how much they respect Americans. That Americans over here, they want to know what's going on. They want to know, can we be brothers? Because over there in their cultures and stuff, they still have, their principles of God are just principles, and the universal principles, right? I mean, nobody wants to be around people killing, murdering and raping and stealing and disrespecting and abusing animals, right? All that stuff. So it's a universal thing happening, and that's what I'm trying to use social media for, is to get the message out there. This is real. You gotta believe in yourself. Can't believe in God if you don't believe in yourself. You can't follow the laws of God or the laws of man if you don't follow the laws of God. You can't stop murdering. Sorry, you gotta go. Can't be around me when I pull up. You gotta go. It's not the other way around. I don't have to go. You're gonna have to go, because a lot of people today are getting the same message too. It's diluted, but I know their interest is increasing, questioning, is God real or not? But people need something tangible. They need people that they can relate to. Because when I died on that construction site, you're gonna tell me I didn't die? I got crushed, my whole body, 5 tons came down on me, right? Nobody called 911. You don't think they didn't try to kill me? You don't think I died? But anyways, my life after death experience was basically I was floating in the universe. Quick seconds that I remember, and I heard the hum of energy and saw just the universe, right? But I felt that power, and that was it. But when I started talking to people, I think I started scaring a lot of people too, because, like I said, it's like I'm super sensitive, or I can see stuff that's not there. Not meaning I see images and I'm crazy in the head or anything like that, right? It's just like systems I see. I see a bunch of systems. These people try, but I already seen the systems too prior to getting crushed. That's what kept me alive. Can you imagine that, getting crushed with 5 tons of an excavator bucket and you don't go to emergency department, right? It's so real, people can't wrap their mind around it. And that's why I think I died out there, and I think God brought me back to life, because when I tell people, they don't, it's like it terrifies them, or you know they don't want to hear about it. They try to forget what they just heard and go back to their life, the broken life. We're all broken anyways. So that's what the seven Noahide laws are there for all of us coming out of the hood that are here today, that are free, that are alive, whether you're rich or poor. God don't discriminate. He wants us to be obedient to him, to find, to uncover him, to discover him, to understand who he is. You can't believe in something if you don't understand what it is, right? Same thing with God. But there's a lot of stuff for us to do, right? Not going out there accusing people and saying all this stuff. What happened in the past? Everyone's here today, all over the world. What happened in the past happened in the past. Those are different generations. What we do have today is us. Everyone's alive today, right now, and we all have to decide what we're going to do with our life. What we're going to do. People are being wasted, wasting away all around us, and this is happening all over the world. Now the earthquakes are happening, more of the natural, process of, I guess you could call what the New Testament describes as the birth pains, right? The birth pangs, right? A metaphor, another Pharisee concept found in the New Testament, right? Well, what's going on? Because the King Messiah is coming. God's trying to get people's attentions and stuff, and people keep messing with his people, right? in Israel and all over the world. Then you got people like me discovering we're Jews and being just injustices happening, right? But God's not trying to take life. He's trying to get people's attention. But the more people reject him, the more he's going to intensify the natural process of what they call in the New Testament, too, the birth pangs, right? A lot of spiritual births are happening. That's what it tells me. A lot of people are becoming psychologically aware, tapping into this messianic consciousness, saying, you know what, just because everybody's murdering and killing, I'm not going to do it, even if it costs my life. I'm going to advocate for people. It's going to cost my life probably, but it is what it is. That's what was happening in the midst of all this confusion and, the natural process as materialize here in Amarillo. I mean, man, it's snowing, it's raining here, tornadoes are hitting. I mean, it's just crazy weather, but it's happening all over the world too. And that's God trying to get our attention. So we all have to begin to decide. I'm going to listen to people that tell me I can't learn these languages, or I'm listening to a cat from the hood over there from watching this video, sat in prison for 3 months, learned these three languages. Now he reads the Bible in four different languages, and he's trying to teach me on social media how to write biblical Hebrew, right? How to read the vowel system and the Aramaic that's discovered in the Bible on top of the Greek New Testament, all for free, right? Or it could be like everybody else, think it's not going to happen to you, and when it does, God forbid that it does. But this is what happens when we stand idle. This is what happens when we listen to people that tell us today not to follow the laws of God. They want us to believe them. Really? For what? Right? They say, well, so you can, go to heaven. Where do you find that at? 'Cause in the New Testament, it doesn't say we're going to heaven. It says God's coming here to earth. Then you listen to the Orthodox rabbis, right? They're saying, yeah, we're supposed to be doing tshuva over here. The Jews and the non-Jews are supposed to help us with their cousins, right? The Muslims, the Arabic-speaking people, because they all come from Abraham and those two religions. But that's what we're supposed to be doing, preparing the earth, preparing our lives by doing the right thing at all times. Imagine that. It sounds dumb. I thought it sounded dumb too. Like it's don't, sounds kind of idiotic that I gotta do the right thing to bring God down here on earth after all the suffering I seen and been through, right? Then you come find out that God's real, and then you have supernatural experiences, like I said, abused with heavy machinery, deny medical treatment, right? Feel like I swear I feel like my neck and my back is broken. This is 5 years later, and I'm just the pain is crazy. But what do you do, right? What do you do? You ask for help, you get assaulted, knocked out by a doctor, you get threatened by police, you get threatened by the mayor, you get threatened by, the insurance carrier, Texas Mutual Insurance Company that was created by the Texas legislatures back in 1993. So what do you do when the Department of Justice puts you on the FBI terrorist list, right? What do you do when your own family, everybody you come in contact with, they call you crazy or they ignore that you're suffering and asking for help? They want you to just move forward with them, and you can't because you're a victim now, dehumanized, as you know. But like I say, it's happening all over. Look what happened at Michigan State University. Condolences to the families and all the people impacted by that. Man, what are you guys doing standing around? You guys have higher education. You should know by now. Watching the people in the hoods over there getting wasted away, right? Just watching it happen. Now look, it's happening everywhere. Everywhere it's unsafe here. Everywhere is unsafe in the United States of America. I'm not wanting to or trying to instill fear in your heart or mind, But if it cause, if that's what it takes for me to instill fear and terror in your heart and your mind for you to wake up, then that's what it's going to take. I went, man, I'm coming out of my terrors. Trust me, I've been there, currently going through it, and I'm finally getting through that dark tunnel. I'm starting to see some light, and I'm here to assist the process too. Reaching out to people. You don't have to worship God, or I'm not saying be part of Orthodox Judaism or anything, right? No religion. Just when you guys see me in public, hey, can we see eye to eye? The seven Noahide laws, right? All you gotta do is not murder, right? You have to understand there is a God that gave these commandments in the first place for us to live by. And they don't take away, they only get improved quality of life. You can't rape people, right? Can't steal from people, can't talk bad about people, no matter how angry you are, right? No matter how much you feel like saying hateful things, you can't. Can't hurt animals, right? Can't be stealing people's property, robbing them. You want something, be satisfied. And this is what I learned about being homeless. I lost it all. Man, when you're on that narrow path, you still have options. Now you're homeless, no one's believing you, got threatened, you might die out here, you know, what do you do? I had to contemplate, do I take my life? Because when you get dehumanized, trust me, you don't want to be dehumanized. It does something to you where you don't even like yourself. I mean, you don't trust people. It's just a terrible place to be, right? So I had to sit there homeless contemplating. Imagine that. Designer clothes and all this stuff, homeless, you know what I'm saying? And do I need to take my life? Right? The second option I had was, well, I could get some alcohol and get drunk. Some homeless. And nobody even cares. Right? I can, third option, throw a self pity that will lead to depression, to commit suicide. And I was there. I want to jump in the highway over in Denver. I ain't gonna lie, shoot, man, when you're homeless and just, body, just all, like I said, when you're psychologically manipulated to the point you want to kill yourself, that's a terrible place to be. You lose it all, right? Lose everything. I could have succumbed to drugs. Shoot, I could have been a drug dealer being homeless, got myself out of that situation quick. I could have started slinging dope, right? But I chose not to. I chose to sit there and just distance myself from everybody. Everybody didn't want to help, pushed me away, so I helped them and I pushed myself away. And but understanding that God is real. So imagine me in Denver in the wintertime, cold freezing out there, right? Having a Jewish Bible, reading in Hebrew, right? Learning, trying to further my education in the Bible. Got my phone app, reading the New Testament Greek, the Aramaic, also, right? Trying to progress in life, contacting attorneys, getting shut down. I mean, I lost count at 85 attorneys, majority of them here in Texas, and like 10, 15 of them outside of Texas, getting shut down by everybody. Can't do nothing. If I was in gangs, I could be like, look, I need help out here. Go after these people, politicians or not, crooked police or not. I'm from Denver. We get down that way. You're not going to intimidate. And that's one of the good things about being in gangs was that you have numbers of people, right? And if you're a leader, yeah, you don't want to mess with leaders of gangs. Everybody already knows, the outcome of that. But because obviously I had some kind of interaction with God, right? Somehow God encountered me or I encountered him and I learned these languages. But during this time, when I learned church history, Jewish history, these languages, American history all over again, just I went into a Great Depression when I was in prison too, So I came out just depressed, brokenhearted. That's why. People say Don't ask God for anything because you're gonna regret it, right? And that was me asking for the truth. And when you start discovering all this stuff, and that's why I tell white people today, don't feel bad for me because see, I have a higher education too, and I understand what the church did here in the United States of America prior, to all the Native Americans, all my ancestors, all of our ancestors here. They did it to your ancestors in Europe. They only did it 1700 years ago. That's why when you watch the show, the Vikings and all that, when does the Roman Church go into Europe? Right? In power, they're already there in the fourth century, 1700 years ago. But in that, there's some kind of there's a truth to the Vikings when the church rolls up into Europe and the Vikings, right? You seen what happened in that show? What you think they're lying? That's all fabricated? Yeah, it's dramatized because it's Hollywood, right? They gotta make money, but they're trying to, you know, relay some kind of historical truth that what that church system did to your ancestors. So don't feel bad for us over here. Shoot, you know, because it might seem like uh, who, these rich people, this corporate America, they're just dividing American people, and the racism, just like I said, mass confusion everywhere, right? But like I said, what's happening to us now? I'm a Native American. I'm half Pasquale Yaqui. You never heard of the Yaquis, The only tribe over here, it seems, from what I can, research, my tribe is the only tribe that never surrendered to the Mexican government and to the United States government. They were federally recognized in the late 1980s. You know what I'm saying? But obviously, I come from a big tribe that fought for 500 years, right? But the mass confusion they're causing, but this also happened to your ancestors too. This also happened to your recent ancestors that came over here from Europe, from Asia, all them places. Being, if you didn't speak that English back then, they knew you. Yeah, you're calling people immigrants illegal and all that stuff. Yeah, your ancestors were called illegal immigrants too. Abused, raped, men and women, little kids getting raped, by these people, not all the Americans, but just those perverted people that stick to the hatred, that hateful ideology. But on our level, it's materialized as racism, right? Like, really, what's there to be proud about? Your skin color, but this is the way, the introduction to following, learning from the Bible, from the Jewish people, from the rabbis, mishpatim. These are the rules that we got to live by. Good thing we don't have to watch, carry, start observing the 613 commandments. If you feel like it, do it. Go shoot, go full throttle in it, But this is the introduction to following the rules of God, the seven Noahide laws, and they're found in Acts chapter 15. When we begin to rectify within ourselves all the damages that we did to ourselves and what other people cause, yeah, you need God to be able to psychologically get involved with you, right? Because all your emotions, all that stuff, that's Jewish spirituality, anyways. Or that's a way to understand Jewish spirituality, Native American spirituality too, touches on that ground. And if anything, that's universal. These are universal laws. That's why I call them universal laws. That's what Paul calls them, in Romans. He says, when, the non-Jew that do the things proscribed in the Torah, are they going to be a judgment towards a Jew that doesn't, know that knows the laws of God but don't follow them? And he's not talking about religious Jews. He's talking about a Jew that's off the path, right? That backsliding in sin. That's who the non-Jews would judge because they show that they're not murdering. They believe in a God, one God, all these different things. They're going to be a judge to a Jew that's not following the divine commandments of God. But they're universal. I mean, anywhere in the anywhere in the world today, you can't go murdering over there, raping, all this crazy stuff, stealing from people, disrespecting people, hurting animals. You know, you got to be part of a community, and that's the court of law. You know, that's the court of justice. You know, inside of the seven Noahide laws and everything, and that's why they're universal. So hopefully, we can get to that point by fixing ourselves and our family, and then our communities, and then society, right, that we all live in, and then the rest of the country, right? So that's what I mean by it. Look at all this stuff I'm talking about. One, am I crazy? Or two, because if you go back to the title of this video, I said when the king calls, right? Now look at what I'm talking about. I'm not sitting here meditating day and night how to persuade people or want people to convert. No, I don't. I just want people to stop hurting each other, stop hurting yourself. We all can do better. And all of our ancestors here in the United States of America was in the church. They were forced to the church. So and they were fine with it. Their children were, right. However, it panned out to our generation, but they were still believing in God, Jesus Christ over there, all this stuff. Just in our generation, it's more important for us to learn the original languages, to rediscover God, to learn about who is Jesus Christ. He's real. I can't believe people in the church today. I'm like, you guys gotta get out that church system. Jesus is real, man. Paul's real. Cephas, Peter, he's real. The only ones that aren't real is like the authors of the four gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This is church scholars would say I'm right if you ask them. They'll tell you, yeah, the original Greek manuscripts, they don't have an author's name on it. So, but yeah, they're real. All that, what happened, Jesus Christ being gone, no, that's false right there. Things were changed, things were added, things were taken away, you know. But can you believe in Jesus Christ? Yeah, if you understand that he's the King Messiah and the role he's supposed to play in the house of Israel, right? In the land of Israel, because he's a Jew with his Jewish people, and how he's supposed to rectify the rest of the world. If you can understand that he's not God, then yeah, go for it. Believe in Jesus Christ. Mimic him. Stop murdering. Stop raping. Stop stealing. Stop treating people bad. Saying bad things. You know, stop hurting animals. Stop destroying just property, creation itself. And create a community. But like I said, you got to fix yourself. Then you got to fix your family. Then you gotta fix the community you're in. And what do you do? How do you do it? Well, you find you find people that are researching the Bible. You find people that can read the original languages of the Bible, and you attach yourself to them, especially when they say, "Look, I want to teach you this stuff. I don't want you to believe what I'm saying. I want you to be able to read this stuff so you can decide for yourself where you're going to end up in life." The resurrection of the dead. Yeah, that stuff's real. you know but it's only for people that are following the laws of God, that are not being disobedient like the New Testament says, but being obedient to God. People say, well, and here's a new doctrine too. John chapter 1 verse 1 through 18, right? But remember, I'm studying and reading the Greek New Testament, so I know you're told John 1:1, right? That, look, it says right here in the translation in English. Yeah, you're reading a translation, like I point out to everybody. Look, this is all a translation. Let me show you. Like I said, good thing for technology. You pull out my phone and show them the Greek manuscript, right? Me, I read from the Texas Receptus, manuscript. It's 99.9% accurate compared to all the other Greek manuscripts they have. But and I show them. But like I said, I mentioned chapter 1, verse 1 through 18. So obviously, I know a lot more than what people are telling you that say they're spiritual leaders, right? And you're listening to them, they can't even read the Greek, and they're not wanting to read teach you the Greek, at least the Greek, right? Because being in prison and being in mental health institutions, all this stuff, right? For my PTSD, all that. Like last November, I was arrested, right? In order just to get medical treatment, I was sent to a mental health hospital. Does that sound wrong to anybody? 'Cause it is wrong, right? But this is my trials and tribulations that's happening, right? But look at, I'm still alive. But I seen the New Testaments. That's all they have. Just New Testaments to getting rid of the Old Testament, right? And that's been going on for 30 years, anyways, and probably longer than that. But John chapter 1, verse 1, I can show you in the Greek. So if you're watching this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, family members. And, once I start making more money, I can show you here on YouTube the Greek manuscript that I'm reading from, and where it says right here what they're telling you and their translation, it's all wrong. Just even the way it's worded in Greek proves that the author is not saying that the word is God. It's the other way around, saying God was the word, not is the word, God was the word, versus the word was God, right? See? And that's what it says in the Greek New Testament. God was the word, literally. But I mentioned John chapter 1, verse 18, because there's a concept in there that the author is describing who Jesus Christ is. That is, it's monogenes theos in Greek. Okay, God, right? We're all just, we didn't ask for life. We didn't ask where to live at, which family we're gonna be part of, rich or poor. But it's common. People talk about God all the time. You hear about God, God. But what does God even mean, right? Because in the Greek and the Hebrew over there, El in Hebrew means power. We're talking about a higher power, a spiritual power that's even outside of spiritual or spirituality and power itself, because he's the creator, right? Best way to explain it, to my wife, I said, look, our reality, this is our reality, what we're living through. But God, this is how real he is. Our reality that he created is artificial reality to him, because he don't he created all this that we experience on a daily basis. Everything. I told her, from the physical creation to everything that scientists are discovering today, to just basic concepts. Aleph, right? The letter A, alpha in Greek, right? Concepts. The word concept itself is created by God. Our language create everything that we experience, that we use, that we know of with our ability of education, all that. It's our reality. It's real. People live, people experience happiness and bad times. People are happy and they suffer, right? Then you end up dying, right? Eventually you can't live for real. This is all real. But God is the creator, so that means that this is some sort of, it's an artificial reality to him, because he created all this and he's outside of that, and that's going into Jewish mysticism and stuff. I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. I'm just relating, um, that I can read these languages, and I'm increasing my vocabulary, and I'm willing to share it with people. And I read a lot of stuff, and all these years I've been trying to figure out how to deliver the message to people, to people that are looking for God, that are looking for hope, that are looking for understanding of life. Why are we here? Why do we experience everything that we experience and stuff? But obviously, it starts with God. It all starts reconnecting with God and being, educating ourselves with the help of God. I'm out of here. I've been on here too long. I feel like I've been babbling. I I suffer from, severe PTSD. It took 4 years, over 4 years, for me to finally get diagnosed with PTSD here in Amarillo, Texas, and to receive some kind of mental health treatment and, in medication and stuff. And I'm starting to feel a little better. Um, I have insurance now, and I'm seeing a medical doctor and trying to figure out how injured my body is from being crushed with an excavator bucket that happened 5 years ago, right? And I'm just trying to, move forward and making a bad thing into a good thing for other people too, because man, what happened to me, I mean, it's happening all over the United States of America. And it's because we're being told to rebel against God, right? People aren't literally telling us, they're implying it by this false doctrine that we have, we're saved by grace and that nobody can keep the laws of God. Like I said, really? You can't stop murdering people, raping people? At least you can't stop stealing, you know? So, and, just watching myself and experiencing when people are idle, not wanting to help, man, I felt like a victim 4 years ago. Now, today, I'm like, man, I wish that people somehow I would have got someone's attention 4 years ago, because I feel like all these deaths that are happening by police at schools, all this stuff happening. If people could have, would it begin if I was able to deliver a message to get people's attention, kind of like, not forewarn people, but just tell them, look, this happened to me, and it's happening, like this is common here in Amarillo, Texas. So that must mean this is common here in Texas. I'm not from Texas. I just was here not even a year when all this stuff happened. And you know, people that look like me, hey, we got a serious problem. You know, people in Denver, Colorado, like I said, other states are different. What's similar, the communities that are broken, that's similar to the Denver communities and Colorado communities that are impoverished, is like Chicago, right? Mexicans, blacks, and each other's gangs. Same thing like Denver, Colorado over there. Whites, Asians, all that stuff. Native Americans. And we all have a serious problem on our hands, man. We've been left behind, and we've been underrepresented for so long. People gave up on us, and being Hispanic, right? That's what they call us. Whether you commit the crime or not, you already know. If you've been in prison in Colorado, you already know, man. There ain't no due process. You're already guilty when they arrest you. And if, like in my cases, they beat on me even as a kid, right? There ain't no due process. You don't. We're over here. They're being told, and and another aspect about us, because we don't speak Spanish, they call us white Mexicans too. So I can show you in my Denver, Colorado police record, right? Just like here in Texas, these cats are calling me white, right? That took away. That's probably why the Department of Justice won't investigate all my complaints I filed. Under Donald Trump when he was the president, right? I ended up on the FBI watch list. Joe Biden is their president, right? The Department of Justice, both presidents, right, in control of the Department of Justice. Don't they know, they if they're watching my video now, like I told you, I'm on the FBI watch list. I was told this by an Amarillo police officer when I came to turn myself in back in 2019, a year, after all this, less than a year, then all this stuff happened to me when I fled from here to Denver, all scared, and I had to come back because these cats put a warrant on me, and I sat in the Roundel County Jail for over 30 days with no legal representation. They wouldn't let me look at my, where's the evidence? You know, what's the witnesses' statements? What are they accusing me of? There ain't no due process. But that's how I discovered that they're calling me white. Took away all my civil rights, right? And that's for all of us. that don't even know it. Good thing you have people like me coming out the hood that's still alive to say, hold on, they've been calling me white since I was a kid. I didn't think none of it. I'm less educated, right? I'm caught up in the hype like everybody else. But I was watching it, trying to understand all this stuff that was happening and what it meant. Because I'm half white too, right? I don't have a problem. You want to call me white? Cool. You gotta treat me like a white person, though. You can't do what they did here in Amarillo, Texas, right? Call me white, but to my, on paper, but to my face, you call me a wetback, crushing me with heavy machinery, letting your doctors beat up on me, have cops threatening me, the mayor, Ginger Nelson, threatening me, sending cops to my place, the residence, to intimidate me. Come on now, you know, put me on the FBI watch list for asking for help. Don't call me white then, but trying to do the right thing, and I'm gonna move forward and make more videos talking about, like I said, the more subscribers I get, I can get, money to I can, upgrade in software so I can show you the Greek New Testament, show you the Hebrew. I can show you to write all this stuff. Right now I'll begin making short videos how to write, you know, biblical Hebrew. And you have to invest in yourself. You gotta buy yourself a pen or a or a pencil, and buy yourself some notebook paper and learn these languages. That's all it takes, and pray to God. Ask Him for clarity. Ask Him for, you know, divine elucidation, right? Divine clarity. Help me understand that you're real and your language is real, that I can even show me that I can learn these languages, right? Whatever your prayer is going to be to God, do it all for the good intention, and you'll be shocked how all of a sudden you learn these things like it's your language, like it's your original language. God bless everybody.